Welcome back to Tabletop Salt. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to be looking at some of the T'au rules revealed today. Now, one thing to note is about the Custodes and Genes to their Cult. I believe that the Codexes should have been out by now, and that now a lot of the promotion has already been done for them. And this is maybe because they've planned a lot of the promotion and stuff to coincide with the Codexes, and they don't really want to change that promotion. I think that happened with the Death Guard Codex last year as well. So maybe it's just they're not trying to delay these things, they're just rather stick to the plan they had and then move on for these articles. Now the Custodes and Genes to the Cult Codex I believe is going to be out very soon, probably at the start to middle of next year, so hopefully not too long to wait. Now we're looking at T'au, we've got a little bit of a look at their battle suits and also some weapons and stratagems as well. Are they any good? Well, I'll give you my thoughts as we go through some of the details we saw in the post. Starting off looking at the T'au Battlesuit rule and some of their support systems. So Battlesuits now look like they can make ranged attacks when they are within engagement range. This is very similar to monsters and vehicles, but without the -1 to hit when they are firing heavy weapons, and the possible restrictions on blast weapons. Now I'm going to go with the fact that blast weapons, simply put, that blast weapons can't be fired in engagement range really by no matter what. It's its own rule from other ones that affect the vehicles and monsters actually hitting. So I'm going to say it does still apply with Battlesuits 1, thus Battlesuits could not fire blast weapons while in engagement range. Some people are debating that at the moment, but at the moment I'm pretty sure it's very clear that blast weapons can't be used. But Battlesuits can fire into engagement range, and it doesn't appear that they suffer -1 to hit when they're using heavy weapons. Not as useful as 8th edition fly and fall back and fire. I think if we had that, T'au would certainly see their uses go up, because being able to fall back and fire with their fly units was exceptionally helpful to get them out of danger and keep a bit of board control. And one thing I noticed in some of the comments was people asking for a bit of clarification whether the shooting attacks happen in the shooting phase or the shooting attacks happen in the melee phase. I think by wording of it, it's pretty much, same as monsters and vehicles, that you can make the shooting attacks when you're eligible to, usually in the shooting phase, because that's kind of how I think it was. And also the alternative, if they could possibly make shooting attacks and shooting, charge, and then fire their shooting attacks in melee, could be a little bit too deadly. So I think it's clear in that it's talking about shooting attacks when you are appropriate to make them. But it was a thing that was brought up in the comments that I thought might be something to highlight on that one. Interested to hear what people's thoughts on that. The other thing as well, Battlesuits might be useful to tie up ranged units, so you might have units that are, maybe infantry units that can't really fire into combat. You charge your Battlesuits in, tool them down, means that they've got to fall back or be stuck in combat with you, and then you can still fire in your own phase when it comes to it. So there is a thing with Battlesuits that this could be quite useful, though ultimately I would have much preferred the fly, fall back and fire, because I just feel with Battlesuits it was a very key part of how they worked. Now we also had a look at some of the support systems. Multi-tracker seems to be more useful. T'au had so much access to reroll ones, it was a little bit too much. Some of the ones, if you had multi-tracker, if you had marker lights, if you had ethereal, just so much access to just reroll one, and you weren't really rewarded for overlapping that so much. So I feel that having just a different rule for multi-tracker, and this one where it's, you get an additional hit on unmodified rolls of 6, provided you meet the requirements for it, yeah, that's quite useful. It may be only maximum 1 per shot, that's a bit limiting, but I can see its uses still. Target lock has changed, as assuming Battlesuits do not count as infantry, then moving in heavy is just not an issue anymore. Possibly may still affect Battlesuits, but their only heavy weapon is marker lights, and I think that was on the Shazwi, if that is the sergeant name for T'au, I believe so. And so I don't think it's really that much of a problem for them. And also being able to, for the ignoring light cover is fine. I think I would have much preferred it if it would just ignore the benefits of cover for that unit, so whether it's light cover, dense cover, or they got cloaks on, it makes them more, they get more bonuses for being in cover. I think it would have been just, ignore cover, it would have been a little bit cleaner, but maybe that might have been too good, because sometimes dense cover is really, really good. Yeah, just ignoring light cover, that's okay, but we'll have to see what the other support systems do to see how we can further augment our units. Next up we come to the weapons and we have a look at the iconic burst cannon and the T'au flamer, slightly different, okay. So the burst cannon remains sort of almost the same, except we're looking at assault 6 instead of assault 4. And the T'au flamer is 12 inches and assault d6 plus 2. It appears that with T'au they are getting a lot of volume fire. Assault 6 is quite a lot of shots per burst cannon, and T'au flamer d6 plus 2, where other forces I think have usually got like -1 to their AP, this one is giving you extra volume shots, so very interesting to see that. If there is any equipment stratagems to help improve hit and wound chances, and I know with T'au there's usually quite a number of ways to either improve the hit roll or reroll ones, and if you can augment the AP improvements, which I believe is possible as well, not so much for wounds but certainly for the hit and AP you can improve, this could be quite deadly when you have a raw large dice pool of hits to go with. So let's talk about some units. Crisis Suit unit with 9 suits, each with 3 burst cannons, which I'm 90% sure that is legal, are now putting out 162 shots. Crisis Suit unit with 9 suits, each with 3 T'au flamers, are putting out, and if my maths is wrong, always correct me on it, but it is 54 plus 27 d6 auto hits, and I think that works out to be roughly 148.5 auto hits. Again, correct me if I am wrong on my math on that one. But that large volume amount of dice is raw dice, could really hurt. I think the flamers might be a thing where you can deep strike in with the crisis suits, absolutely flame away a number of forces, then maybe your enemy responds by trying to charge, and if auto overwatch is still a thing for T'au, I'm assuming as it's staying, then that's just going to make these flamers an absolute nightmare, because then your opponent might charge in, they suffer to the overwatch, they hopefully do a bit of damage for them. If they don't, then your next turn you could stay in combat and just rinse them in more T'au flamers. So I can see a lot of potential here depending on the augments we can make to improve our wounds and AP etc. chances. But this looks to be a large volume of dice, and that could be very interesting. And lastly we come to the stratagems that revealed and what I'd like to see in the future for these sort of community posts to give us an idea of what's happening in the rules for T'au. So firstly we saw Strike and Fade move from Dalith only stratagem. Honestly I didn't even know about the stratagem because I never used Dalith, or however it's pronounced, so yeah, I didn't know about Strike and Fade, but I can see its uses. It's been moved to a generic one, which is fine, so they're going to probably get a different stratagem instead, but it only affects jetpack units now, and it allows you to, at the start of your shooting phase, you can make a shooting attack, and then you can normal move up to 6 inches. So I know they're trying to be a little bit, they're trying to avoid these rules too much because sometimes it made some units really difficult to deal with if they were just firing then moving back into cover. So yeah, or at least making them into line of sight blockers. So interestingly, they have made it a more generic one. It's definitely one I can see uses for, and it's jetpack only. So yeah, I think it is quite good. Another thing to be very specific on is the wording about excluding drones. Implies drones will be attached units and possibly remain with that unit throughout the game. Possibly they separate later on, but that is purely speculation. Either way, very interesting to hear about drones in terms of they're part of a unit, because I believe most cases they just separated off once you start the game. Drop threat acquisition seems expensive, however 9-man squad of crisis suits, each with 3 fusion blasters, I believe that's how many they can take, putting out 27 shots, and with all of these being rerolls, will net you around an extra 6.75 hits. Possibly a bit expensive at 3 command points, but with the right drop and situation with fusion blasters, this could be very good and see a lot of damage. Now things I'd like to see, I want confirmation on Overwatch remaining army wide. That has to really happen. I need to know if that's going to be a case. I'd like to see sept rules, and lastly I want to see the drone rules. Now I think this should have been beta ruled months back, mainly because it's a rule that during 8th we saw it had to get through different versions over and over again. I think the drone rule should have been one that was betaed, and just so that by the time we get to their Codex stage, they know that they're going to get it right. I don't know, maybe we'll see and it'll be absolutely fine, but let's just hope it's not as messy as we saw in 8th edition. And that is it for my thoughts on the T'au in terms of the community post that we saw today. What did I like? I liked the idea of having volume of shots. I really like the weapons in that one, and how we're going to play with them is going to be very interesting, because too many extra bonuses on top of those are going to make them absolutely dangerous. So very, very interested to see how that goes. Stratagems were absolutely fine, no problem with them. And yeah, when it comes to the Battlesuit, I don't think I like the rule so much. I think it's fine. It's a bit like vehicle and monster rule. But generally when it comes to Battlesuits, I want to do everything I can to avoid combat. And this just feels like a chance to stay in combat and make a little bit of a contribution to being able to fire back. But ultimately, if someone charges T'au units, generally a T'au unit isn't going to survive. Sometimes they do, but in many cases they don't. Crisis suits might have more of a chance. We'll see. Who knows, they might have gone up even more wounds, which would be quite cool. But that's just utter speculation. What would you guys like to see? I am big on getting the drone rule. I think they should have knocked that out of the park very early in this edition. They should have put maybe a beta rule for what they wanted it to be. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I just know in 8th edition it was a little bit messy, even towards the end. So, and I went through 3 or 4 iterations of how they did it. They just kept FAQing it. So we'll see in terms of what comes out to be with drones. But I think, yeah, basic rule could have done them good, but we'll only find out either when they reveal during community post or when the Codex comes out. So thanks again. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Are you excited to see more T'au stuff? What would you like to see? Let us know. And we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.